Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're here again. UnSpun episode number 133. Adam Green is back with me tonight. We are going to discuss his recent trip to Palestine, which I'm sure must have been a real eye-opener for you, Adam. It's good to have you back. We've got a lot of stuff going on. I also wanted to thank Kane for Kane, who used to send donations like a year or two ago. Sent a donation again this week. He's just turned 8. Thank you, Kane, for your generous donation. He's showing all the grown-ups up out there. Really appreciate the support and the fact that a young audience out there is tuning in, and that there are young minds beginning to wake up and take hold with the trivium and trying to figure out what the truth is all about. So anyway, Adam, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
And, I copied Hans, and I got one of these room things behind me, so I'm not sure what I think about it yet, but, it kind of makes it seem a little more cozy, so I don't know. Maybe we'll see what the audience thinks of it. No more kitchen and pots and pans back there, but anyway, so let's just start off. So you went to Palestine recently. Were you nervous going there?
I was really nervous because in the news the week before, there was a girl that got stopped and detained, and she was detained for like 2 weeks, I believe. And it was because she had a BDS book. I think it was, a boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. So they held her up there, even though she was supposed to go to study at like Hebrew school in
Wow.
Tel Aviv. So yeah, I thought for sure like I was on some kind of list, especially because I was going with another big YouTuber that's like does anti-Zionist content, Jake Morphonios from Blackstone Intelligence. So I thought if I wasn't going to get caught up at the checkpoint, that he would. But we made it through, and we made it back out without too much trouble. They did go through all of our bags and give us 5 out of 6 on the security danger scale. When you leave, there's several levels of interrogation. And when you fly to Israel, you go through one level of security in the United States airport. And then at the gate, the only gate that's going to Israel, they have another level of security because, of course, they have to be extra protected over there in Israel.
Wow. So what was level 5 out of 6? You're like a terrorist threat?
Yeah, I think they were most worried about me because I had passports to Indonesia when I had gone to Bali. So that's a Muslim country, so they were worried about that. But and also I was going out with a group, and we were like spread apart, and the person in front of me got like caught up and had to point out other members of the group, so that made me really nervous too. And then with the 5 out of 6, you have to go to a special security center where like there was probably only 5 people in line and hundreds in the normal line. So I was like pretty nervous there too, that I'm like the only one going through the special area. And then they pulled out all my stuff and asked me a bunch of questions, but they let me through. I don't know if it's a miracle or what. I guess I'm not big enough to be on all their lists yet.
Wow. All right. So you get into Israel. Obviously, Palestine is an occupied territory. You're not even allowed to travel directly to Palestine. I mean, they can't even go to their own beach and stuff, right? They're totally
Exactly.
corralled in little like zoo pens, you know.
Yeah, there's a restriction of movement. There's checkpoints everywhere. They're so crazy with the permits. Like one family member, one husband has to drive over, and then the wife has to go underneath and go through like the cattle calls, security pin down below, and they really just systematically dehumanize the Palestinians, like almost on cruel levels, like cruel and unusual ways. To
All the
like
while they scream at any, anti-Semitism at anyone who, says anything dehumanizing about their behavior.
Right. Yeah, that's the latest with all this anti-Semitism stuff. We were talking before about my mini doc, "The Truth About Anti-Semitism," and we're really they're taking us down for a walk with this censorship, and it seems like they're going to be passing laws soon to make BDS illegal, boycotting Israel illegal, and criticizing Israel. I could see it coming.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they're trying to control everything. They want to be the world head, but yeah, it's the systematic destruction of all freedom using left-hand path, the left democratic values and all of that to undermine everything, socialism, communism, Zionism, all of that stuff to undermine everyone. And they don't want us to read religious books because all of the religious books make clear, the Bible, the Quran, the Book of Mormon, other texts, that the more iniquitous your culture is, the easier you are to be enslaved. So they have to promote transgender, homosexuality, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all of the social engineering stuff to bring it to systematically dumb everyone down and have them preoccupied with the porno, with the professional sports, with the, all of this different stuff so that they can come in and easily take over. It's like the rat in the experiment doesn't know that he's in the experiment when he's pushing on the lever to get the pellet. He's like, what are you talking about? I just push this lever and I get a pellet, and he doesn't get that he's in a cage in an experiment. So it's on that level with people.
Yeah, we're definitely guinea pigs in an experiment. There's 2 new Netflix documentaries out. One is called not Toxic. It's called Stink or something. Oh yeah, Stink. It's about all the toxic chemicals and all the products of all the big multinational companies, and then all the poison in the food, and then the radiation. There's a documentary out called Zapped. We're just being poisoned on every level. And do you think that all this degeneracy that you're talking about stems from the Sabbatine Frankists and like the redemption through sin? Is that
maybe? I don't know what they do. I don't know. To me, it's like I just see them as like little children who go wham 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 wham. So like if you go through and you read all the Bible, it says if you do all of this stuff and act this way, you'll have a good life, and your generations will go on forever. If you act this way, you're going to fall, and your people will be enslaved, and you'll be killed off. So what they do is they go through the Bible and they say, it says don't drink blood, we drink blood. They say, it says, don't have sex with children, we have sex with children. It's, blah, blah, blah. It says don't lie, so we lie. Just everything is flipped into the antithesis. Rather than living in truth, we're going to lie. And it's just you take, anything that deals with natural law and with living in truth, they just take it and they invert it to the antithesis. So this is why I feel like, their behavior is like a small child who, throws a temper tantrum anytime like there's rules in a game or, that everybody has to follow along to get along so that it's fair and, things like that. And so then they just sit there and they go, wham, 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 I don't want to follow the rules. And so they just flip and invert everything and do the opposite, you shouldn't have fornication and pornography, so they promote pornography, yada, 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 right down the list. Every single little thing, you just take it, you invert it, you take it, you invert it. But, so if you read through the Bible, the Quran, all of these books, they go through and they tell you what to do and what not to do. And, they explain all of this stuff. And if you still do it, then your culture gets enslaved. And so this is what you see them doing right now is they promote all of this iniquity onto other cultures, and then you see all of these cultures being enslaved all over the place right now. And we're in the final stages. Like, what was it? The Atlantic just published, we're at the end of Christian America, and they published that like it's a good thing. But what that means is it's in the fall, and so people think, oh, well, no, that's good, but what built up the culture? What held it together? So we're no longer in the days of Leave It to Beaver. Now we're in the days of, sex, drugs, rock and roll, pornography, iniquitous behavior, bestiality being promoted. They're trying to legalize pedophilia, have as, many this, that, do everything that you want. It's do what thou wilt, do what thou wilt is the whole of the law under love, is how they explain it. So anything that's done in love is okay, as Aleister Crowley and the Satanists like to put it. But once you get that it's Satanism, They just take everything and they invert it. So they sell a cheap freedom rather than the freedom. It's like, the liberals want gun control, for instance, but it's guns that gave the liberals the freedom to be against guns. And so they don't even grasp the core concepts of what it means to be free. They think being free means being a Lilith, having, 60, 70, 80 lovers for some women, rather than getting married, having a family, making sure your family tree survives, building something real, so that when you look back as a grandparent, you can sit back and look at your creation, your literal creation. Mm-hmm. And your creation that's going to live on through time. Or were you on the pill, you had 5 abortions, you never got married, you're a communist, you have to be on feeding off of the state because you don't have a family, an extended family to take care of you, etc. And then they get to the end of their life and there's nothing left. They've wiped themselves out. And that's what it actually means to be damned. So your family is just gone. It's wiped out.
I've seen you've been doing some posts recently about feminism.
Yeah.
On Facebook.
Yeah, we're getting off topic here, but yeah. So,
yeah. Well, I want to hear about the feminism, but
all right, I'll just mention it really quickly since you brought it up. But here's one I just made a joke the other day. Demons. From DEMO-N, demon, and then demo, DEMO, and then crats, Democrats, rule by demons, But so here, let me see.
No, the one I saw was like feminism is everything that means to be a woman.
Right. Well, why is it that feminism undermines everything that's feminine, which it literally does? So let's go through. And then the next post I made a brief summary of feminism. Okay, so nurturing is bad, childbirth is bad, motherhood is bad, being a woman is bad, supporting your man is bad, family is bad, children bad, monogamy bad, marriage bad, home economics bad, being an Eve bad. Communism good, act like men good, compete with men good, hate family good, abortion good, have tons of lovers good, be on the pill good, leave the home good, abandon children and family good, be a Lilith good.
It mix outside of your race, I'd say, is another one. That's the real trendy thing that we're seeing so much in the media and trying to be pushed.
Oh, yeah, they're really trying to get rid of whites right now. They're pushing that hard right now.
The Atlantic, I looked it up. I saw that a few days ago and it slipped my mind. It's crazy that stuff so hardcore, like the Atlantic saying we've reached the end of white Christian America, and it's just like it's all over the news, but if we get mad about it, they call us anti-Semites and white supremacists.
Right, exactly. So it's always the spin, and it's like, well, we're without a home. We got kicked out of every country, and where we go, it's like a virus, and everybody hates us. It's like, and so they invert it, they flip it, right? So well, why? What behavior? Let's change the subject. What behavior were you doing, Judas's, that got you kicked out of every country on earth? Now, if you're at a party and you're not causing any trouble and you're chill and cool, are you the person that gets kicked out, or is it that's the person that's fighting or doing stuff to the women or whatever the case may be, that's causing trouble, harassing people, being an obnoxious drunk, etc.,
interfering and
exactly, or is that person who gets kicked out? And so if you start thinking a little critically, okay, wait, so you're telling me that it's just a virus that follows these people around wherever they go, and they're innocent of any wrongdoing. They don't worship Satan. They don't lie constantly, Satanism. They didn't spread the plagues. They don't spread iniquitous behavior and degeneracy and alcohol and pornography and drugs and everything else. They're just totally innocent.
You haven't mentioned my two worst grievances is the wars and the rigged banking systems.
Usury. And then there's the child sacrifice and vampirism that we haven't even brought up, right? And so, so were you doing that behavior? Because if you were acting like all of the people who live in truth...
Those are conspiracy theories, and you're an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist.
And you're an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist, exactly. Yeah. So
the two magic words, conspiracy theorist and now hate speech, this Orwellian hate speech that's a subjective term, could be selectively enforced depending on the enforcer's bias. And this is going to be this new magic word that is going to...
They've already demonetized this episode, dude.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, my name is probably. Yeah, have you seen the new Al Jazeera documentary about the Israeli lobby? All the ways that they're integrated with all of the social media, the ADL, the SPLC, Israel, with all their top technology.
I have
Um,
not.
Oh, it's sickening in the way that they're people online, independent YouTubers, independent journalists. They are attacking us 7 ways from Sunday online, and they say it in their own words. They do psychological warfare on us, like drip, drip, drip. Keep us occupied, keep us busy, so we're not focused on exposing what they don't want us to expose.
Well, exactly. And then everything is inverted. It's like when you get it, okay, so, is it Holocaust denial is anti-Semitism, they'll state. Is it really? Well, if I research it, and I'm a forensic researcher, an expert researcher, when I research it, there's no evidence for it. I mean, there's evidence of the Bolshevik Jewish, massacre of the Russians and the gulags, and there's evidence of the Jews spreading the plagues, and there's court records going back 500 years for this stuff, and court records going back 500-600 years of human sacrifices and stuff like this. But if we talk about any of this stuff, Abe Foxman would label it anti-Semitism when we're discussing the facts. But see, the issue is you discuss, and this is why they don't want people reading the Bible, because the Bible explains all of their tricks so that you avoid them.
The Bible's anti-Semitic hate speech. Jan.
Well, they actually do call the New Testament anti-Semitic hate speech. They call Jesus the first anti-Semite. Why is that? Because Jesus went around exposing the tricks of the Jews, and they killed him for it.
And they say that we're anti-Semitic when we say that they're into like blood rituals and blood sacrifice.
Oh, it's been debunked.
Libel.
It's been debunked. It's pseudo crazy.
They're still doing it. They're talking
still
about
doing
the red heifer, and they're doing the circumcisions and the red heifer.
Right. Let's talk about the moil, and let's talk about adrenochrome. We know that the moil sucks baby penis after the circumcision to get the adrenochrome from the adrenaline rush from putting the baby into shock. That's
sick. The first I've heard that.
It's
I've heard
blood. It's blood ritual, and the Bible breaks down in 17 or 20 passages, which I just showed on the vampirism episodes, about not drinking blood. So again, with the wham baby stuff, the Bible says don't drink blood. So what do? They drink blood. The moil comes in, and they're drinking the blood from the circumcision directly from the baby's penis to get the adrenochrome, and they get high from it. This is why there's stories coming out now of kids in Asia boiling tampons. No joke. It's so that they can get a rush off of it. And when you go through the Bible, it explains all of the vampirism stuff and all the blood ritual worship and all of that. And this
I was watching your episode on that, on the vampirism, and I think that's where I heard that the show. What's that? The druggie, the movie, Hunter S. Thompson. He says he got adrenochrome from the Satanist.
Yep.
I heard that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, well, that's like, he was a Satanist. I mean, that's kind of, he was, as far as I can tell, he was CIA as well. He was at Frank Olson's house right after the murder. It's like Hunter S. Thompson shows up as a journalist, obviously to spin the story and to control the narrative like they always do. You got to always have the narrative control, because apparently Frank Olson was going to blow the whistle on, I suspect they were testing different methods of spraying LSD and or maybe mercury-based poisons, and they used Pont Saint-Esprit, France as a test zone, and they poisoned the whole village there, and then 5 or 7 people died from it. The town went crazy for a couple of weeks. Some of the people never recovered, but that was all part of the research going on there. And I think, that he was going to blow the whistle, and they offed him for it. But, it's interesting, and as his son, Eric Olson, did that series on Netflix recently, it's like, you didn't do a series on Netflix unless you're on the take. So apparently they got Eric Olson to flip back. I've heard from others it was a garbage show and total spin of the facts, but I wouldn't be surprised for a second that they, got Eric Olson to turn on his own father and family.
Yeah, I've done several videos breaking down some hardcore propaganda Netflix against 9/11 Truth and against like the anti-white agenda. And but just recently they had two amazing documentaries that came out about the poisons, how they're poisoning us, and with the Wi-Fi and the radiation, the cell phone towers. So it's weird. It's like they're telling us the truth on the place where they're giving us all the propaganda. And the Obamas are connected to Netflix too.
Yeah, well, that's when I canceled my account, was when they did the contract, and I recommend everybody do that. I mean, it's bad enough that all the, mom and pop movie shops that they've wiped out all over the country, but, if you think about it, what good did the Obama administration do? None. I mean, the country is the worst that it was ever after him. It was just a wreck after him. And then, now we have to deal with contracts for the Obamas to propagandize us with crap shows that we already know are garbage before they even put it out. And not that it wasn't, always social engineering like somebody just posted there. I totally agree with that. It always was. And you can see the agendas in the movies. Like every movie has to have a transgender or homosexual in it now. And it's like, oh, come on, It's just, it gets old, or multiracial couple or this or that, and it's like you see the agenda of them planning the stuff. And this is why, unless you're studying it to understand it, why you should kill your TV and Netflix and all of that, because, if you're not competent or far along enough in your studies to be able to spot this stuff, it can be weaponized against you. So anyway, let's get back over to Palestine. We only talked about Palestine for a second. So let's talk about this school you went to in Palestine. What was that like?
Yeah, I just posted today a video, Palestinian refugee schoolgirls speak out. So we visited in the West Bank. There's a refugee camp that's funded by the UN. And we went to the girls' side of the school and we chatted with some of the girls who were in 7th to 9th grade that were like elected the government of the school by the rest of the students. And they were just like, pleading to us, like, please, why aren't you doing anything about Trump? He's cutting our donations. Kushner got them to cut the humanitarian refugee budget, while we give billions and billions and billions to Israel to do what they're doing in Gaza and wars, illegal nukes and stuff. But now they're cutting these young girls' budgets so that they can't even have anything. Completely broke.
So what was it? What was it like in Palestine? Were you ever? Did you ever feel in fear for your life being there?
Only at the Israeli checkpoints. All the Palestinians were so like way more Americanized than people would imagine. Very welcoming. A lot of them spoke English. Everybody was happy to like take photos or was like waving and saying welcome. A lot of people wanted to comment about Trump. A lot of people, some of the guys commented about Ivanka too. So they're kind of paying attention to our politics because it's so relevant to what's going on with them and the living under occupation of the Zionist state. And but they're really resilient and informed and passionate, persistent, so hospitable, like making sure you have food and tea and coffee, and really they're just crying out and begging for solidarity and just to have dignity and freedom. Like the checkpoints, the constant humiliation by these like 18-year-old IDF
now
soldiers.
Palestine is a coastal country, and you met a woman who was never allowed to go to the beach in her life because she couldn't get a permit from the Jews to walk down to the beach.
Right. Yeah. If you don't have like a Jerusalem and you're not of the right family, you're not going to get permits to travel around in Palestine. And we're talking, it's not like there's just like the Israel area and then the West Bank is all Palestine. The West Bank has settlements, illegal Israeli settlements that have been voted illegal by multiple UN resolutions. But the US just keeps vetoing it and protecting and enabling and funding all of this to happen. The blood's on our hands. And this latest Al Jazeera doc, The Lobby, they're bragging. All these AIPAC and Jewish lobby people are bragging that they have bipartisan control over Congress and they have all the think tanks. So they're doing all of the creating all the policy, and then they control the public discourse. They got the three pillars: the lobbying, the think tanks, and the controlling the media with the public discourse. And they control the country, and they're bragging about it. And Trump's top campaign contributor is an Israel firster. AIPAC ran his campaign. The Democrats are just as tied into AIPAC and the Jewish lobbies too. I mean, it's a serious, serious situation, and we're getting to a point now where we can't speak out on any of this. We can't even use their own words, their own headlines in videos without being censored by the very censors that we're criticizing.
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of this show, they've already demonetized this episode, so I greatly appreciate all of your donations and support. Go to the logosmedia.com website or click on the Super Chat button down there, or there's a Patreon button up there in the top right that you can click on. It'll take you there. Also, Adam, how can they reach you and donate to your cause?
My YouTube channel is No More News, and that's like knowledge, KNOW, more news. And then you can just Google No More News, and then you can find my YouTube, my Twitter, and the Patreon and PayPal is the best way for any donations. And everybody really needs to support. I support a lot of independent media that I value the content of and that I watch, because I know that everybody's it's like a David and Goliath, what we're up against right now with the censorship. It's not an even playing field. The stack is the odds are stacked against us, and we need support, or else we're not going to be around to be spreading this information.
I have been blocked from Facebook twice in the last 3 weeks for posting that transgenderism is a mental disorder, and that there's only two genders. And today I posted a medical doctor, a woman, Michelle, what's her name, who's the head of the American College of Pediatrics, talking about how the whole transgender agenda is child abuse. And so I wonder if they will, try to shut me down for posting a medical professional, Michelle Cretella, and it's on transgenderism. A mental illness is not a civil right. And she's the president of the American College of Pediatrics, and she's been out trying to expose all of this stuff, and she's got, a couple of videos out there that have gone viral. But, I mean,
we're going to live in a world where you can't say anything that might offend anyone. It's going to be a bubble wrap world of political correctness where only white males are allowed to be hated upon.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what another thing I posted the other day was, does your life suck? Instead of taking responsibility for your behavior, blame a white male, So it's becoming, the social engineering is just so egregious and so obvious. And the majority of the public are just so oblivious to it. And thank you, Anthony and Alfega and Brian, for your donations, and somebody just sent me one in the email too. Thank you all so much for the support. Hugely appreciate it. Ian just sent a donation for $25, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Lion, maybe. So anyway, thank you all for the support. So yeah, it's definitely getting bad, and it's definitely the tiptoe totalitarianism type. And what they did was they used, Pizzagate to scream fake news when they were the fake news, and then they used that to try to shut down all of the independent media that is exposing, of course, them. And, it's fake news. It's a danger to our democracy. Meanwhile, it's them that are the danger to democracy, and they are the ones who are impeding free speech. The millennials, the college grads today are so dumbed down and so emotionally based in their thinking. They don't deal with facts and reality. Reality doesn't exist. Reality is subjective to them. And, everything that they do, or most things that they do, are based on emotion. And so you have this society today, these millennials growing up today, they don't, they don't have a concept of right and wrong. Everything is moral relativism, and it's just You know, it's like adults going around with diapers because they can't handle open discourse. You know, the left, the so-called liberals, which liberal is supposed to mean free from liber, book, etc. It's supposed to mean freedom, but yet we see constantly everything that they promote is against freedom. Okay, well, they're promoting the freedom for transgender by banning free speech. Okay. Well, how does that work exactly? And then you give one group more rights. The transgenders have more rights. Well, no, everybody started on a level playing field, and then you give one group more rights than others. So gays, transgender people have more rights than the rest of the population. So then everybody starts having animosity to these groups because they shut down any freedom that we originally had. And, and it's like I said earlier, it's like the liberal mindset doesn't understand that it was the conservative Christian people who gave them the freedom to act that way in the first place, to then go around and want to take away their guns and their free speech. It's irony at face value, but they can't conceptualize and see the concepts, but because they don't have the critical thinking and the education. They go through a university, all these tenured professors, most of them are on the take. And they're on the take because of the peer review system, and you start fact-checking them, and they're all going around in a big circle jerk citing each other rather than the primaries, and that's how you spot these academic spy cells, is these academic circles that they do. And so once you can see these, you can start breaking apart academia, and you realize that they're all frauds there to sell these agendas, and they're part of it, And so, you parents are paying good money to put their children in a university to be conditioned with this liberal social engineering crap, It's literal crap. And it's all about, just like that family, that thing that I read on feminism earlier, all the things that feminism is against, family and yada, yada, yada down the list. That's all of the things that they promote. And, hate white males, especially hate white males. Blame the white male for everything. Let's go back. Let's build a city like Port-au-Prince. How about we all live there instead? It's like, so, well, if it's the whites that caused all the problems, why don't we go to a city where there's way fewer whites, like Port-au-Prince, where it's like 95% black, and let's see how it's doing there, and it's like, and you see these ghettos and whatnot going on. And here, let me just type this in so people can have an idea. And, and if you really think that, it's white males that are causing all your problems, you got to start looking a little bit deeper at things because, it could get a lot worse, folks, and they would love to make it worse. They would love to make it worse. How much worse do you want it? Do you want to live in flies and shit? Is that how you want to live? Because it can go way, way, way worse. And so, and then what they do is they blame, white male government and order, so we want to promote anarchy and no order so that it's just a free-for-all. And then we see the degradation and destruction that goes along with it all the way, and we shouldn't read religious texts. We shouldn't know what other people think, even if you don't want to believe what these texts say. You should at least study them so that you understand what they say, Why, at least have an iota of intelligence to know why you dislike what they say, rather than just saying, well, Christianity's BS because, you believe somebody floating in space. And when that's not at all true, and then you actually read these texts and you go, oh, wow, everything I've ever heard from other people about these texts or against these texts, they were lying. And they also hadn't read them, And so when you get that, or they're Satanists and they just go through the text to invert everything, and it's just so...
Speaking
ridiculous.
of inverting, I wanted to, you mentioned that earlier. I wanted to point something out on Palestine. Alex Jones, the Zionist shill, inverting the truth for the Zionist state. I have a clip of Jones saying the Palestinians want to infiltrate and overthrow your country. That's what they always do. He says the Palestinians infiltrate and take over countries. Yeah, if that's not an inversion, I don't know what is. And also the way that they're trying to use this hate word to invert on us when we're the ones that have the moral high ground. We're the ones that have the truth here. They're the ones that are censoring us because they're suppressing their opposition. You know, they can't have an honest debate and any conversation at all. So we're the ones that have the moral high ground, that are in the right here. And we're doing this out of love, and they want to spin it and say we're hateful. We point out their supremacy, and they call us
it's
supremacy.
Like we point out their hate and their racist tactics, and they're putting down all of the Goyim races, and then we're accused of being racist for pointing out their behavior. You know, it's like they do all of this anti-Germanic stuff, you know, and they blame the Germans for this whole atrocious lie that they've spread for 75 years now. And then if you point out the fact, you're an anti-Semite. How does that work? Wait, huh? You know, and they literally just invert it. So, you know, it's like the Holocaust is the only thing that's illegal in most countries to research and investigate and question the official storyline. You can go to prison in many countries for questioning the official historical narrative. And when you get in there and you start actually researching it, the grammar is very, very lacking, you know, and they've manufactured a lot of grammar over the decades. But, you know, you get in there, you know, I recommend people looking up a documentary called Buchenwald, A Dumb, Dumb Portrayal of Evil, and watch that, you know, and that is the grammar. I mean, he's going line by line through the court records, through the documents, through the research, through the books, and showing it on screen. And another one that he did is 1/3 of the Holocaust. And if you go through all of that and you just study it, you realize how everything is, you know, once again inverted, you know. And it's like, wait a second, you kill millions of Russians and Germans, like 1.5 million Germans were killed, and how many Europeans were killed, but yet the Jews have managed to take the control, the patent, the claim for, you know, the only people that suffered in World War II. It's like, okay, so 180, 200 million people die, but then only the Jews, you know, suffered. And then meanwhile, the Jews killed, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20, some suggest 60 to 70 million Russians.
Somebody should look up the statistics and find out like the ratio between deaths in World War II and number of museums. I'm sure there'll be quite the hockey stick on that one.
Yeah, so, you know, so exposing the tricks is somehow anti-Semitism. And look at all of the thumbs down on there. My goodness, they're really out tonight. They don't like us discussing this stuff. But, you know, it just is, you know, and, yeah, David Cole, they're bringing up David Cole in the chat. That's a good point, you know, and I think I reached out to Cole once. He actually went to Auschwitz 20 years ago and was on Phil Donahue's show exposing how it was all fake, and they totally came out attacking him, and he went underground for years. But
in a way that they invert things is they have double standards. So they invert the rules. There's a different standard for them. They're hypocrites. It's illegal around the world to question the Holocaust, but the Nakba, the Palestinian Holocaust in 1948, where they were expelled from their villages where they had lived for generations and you know, hundreds and hundreds of years, they're not allowed to talk about that. They're not allowed to teach that in their textbook. They're not even allowed.
Armenian genocide is another one that they did, you know.
Yeah, so it's just the double standard.
And then if you wait, and we haven't even begun. Let's talk about the Great Plagues, the Black Plague, you know, that swept Europe and killed 60 to 70 million people. That was them. And then we see the plagues that were spread against the Native Americans, and everywhere. This is, you know, why I tell people not to go out and celebrate Halloween every year. You know, the witch's cauldron and all that, that is the brew of genocide, and they would go around. This is where we get the fallacy from, poisoning the well. They would go around and they would poison the wells, boil, boil, toil, and trouble. You know, the like in Macbeth, a recipe for the brew that they would create for committing mass genocide, for spreading these plagues, and then they would go around and poison the wells. And there's, they hide the symbolism and alchemy and all of this stuff, and you have...
What's the evidence for that? Sorry to interrupt you, on, but I've heard that so many times. So many people say that they poison the wells, but what is the...
Well, you have to go through, they were kicked out of, here's the thing, is there's a veil at about the 400-year mark that's really hard to get behind, to get to primary documentation, because so much of it's been destroyed. But so what they were accused of in most countries that they were kicked out of, and they've been kicked out of like 220 countries, which is just about all of them. So they were accused of usury, of sacrifice of children and Christians, and of spreading the plagues. And so, when we were researching the Salem witch trials, you had the Pequot War, and you had all of these different things going on. And what you would have is the same scenario, and you would have these Marranos or crypto Jews, essentially. They would go around and hide, just like Salem, all of the events at Salem, those were crypto Jews, and the whole thing was blamed on Christians. Every time Salem is brought up, the Christian, that's an example of Christian hysteria. Ha ha ha. This is why Christianity is bad, even though the Christians didn't do it at all, and the Jews did poison the girls. They were poisoning the town with mercury and other stuff. And then, this whole thing breaks out, and they were, you have child sacrifice and stuff appearing there too. And then you have these people involved in Salem, involved in the Pequot War, and the Indians see these guys going down the canoe in, strange Indian attire, but they didn't know who they were. And then, days or weeks later, there would be an outbreak. And you have this in the stories of Cortez, and you have this in, for instance, in the Florentine Codex. I think it's book 12 of the Florentine Codex, which was written by Friar Sahuagin, who is Jewish Marrano by coincidence. But they show up there, and then you have a plague spread among the Mexica there. And oh wow, thank you so much, Anthony. Anthony donated $100 tonight. Wow, I really appreciate it. And so you have the plague spread there, and smallpox. And then shortly after, Cortez, Marranos, and his crew, like a third of his crew were Marranos. And then they go in after the people have been wiped out, and then they take over. And so you see this systematically everywhere they go. So I don't have documents to prove it. What I have is a pattern that I've seen through research that happened systematically everywhere they showed up. And then,
given the rest of their track record,
there was one step additional to it, and each time they did it, the white Christians were pointed at and blamed for the whole thing. So they're Marranos, they're conversos, they converted to Christianity to hide because of their actions, because of spreading the plagues and doing this stuff. Then they end up in the Americas, and we have a repeat. But because now they're Catholic priests or friars or whatever, they're hiding behind the veil of Catholicism and doing the same thing. And then the Christians get the blame for the actions. You see how that works? So it's just like the Puritans. The Puritans, they put on a veil of Christianity. They commit all of these crimes, do all of this stuff, but then Christians take the blame for the next 326, 327 years. So it's the same tactic, and this is just how they blame the white Christians over and over and over throughout history. They invert the history of it. But you can go through and you can read, all of these professors. Like I said, I think nearly all tenured professors are on the take. And it's because of the peer review system, and it's this circle jerk of research, because they all cite each other. So they have to know that their work is corrupt. They're either incompetent as professors, or they're on the take, because, when you dig down into the primaries and read the Florentine, read these documents, you constantly see this behavior of them, controlling the narrative by constantly citing each other, but not the facts. So then when you go down into the primaries and check everything, their whole charade, comes undone. And it happens so many times. But, so with Tartary, you have the world's largest empire that stretched most of the northern hemisphere, and it collapses. And then they systematically, for the next couple hundred years with Joseph Scaliger and all, they're rewriting all the history, like on the shows I did with Jacob Duhlman on Scaliger, and they're rewriting all the history for the next 200 years to cover up this huge country, this huge empire, Tartary, and it was Christian. And it spread across the world, not because, they were violent, because they believed in truth from what we can tell. But again, they wiped everything out and rewrote it. So you have a veil there at the 400-year mark when you're going backward into time, and it's really hard to – and this goes for anything. There really is no history beyond 400 years old. So whenever somebody tells you something is 1,000, 2,000, 6,000 years old, total bullshit. We have no idea. The Dark Ages, in my opinion, were manufactured and inserted, never happened, totally bogus, and you can just delete the Dark Ages out of the historical narrative entirely.
What's some of the highlights from the Dark Ages you're referring to?
Like, as in what sense? Like, I mean,
that weren't true, that are made up.
Well, the whole thing didn't happen, You just collapse that whole 1,000 years. You just collapse it, remove it. And then when you realize that, it's like the year is actually, we're like in the 800s or 900s right now, and that's it may sound far-fetched. I can see the trolls clipping that and trying to make some hit piece video about that. But when you study, you'll see all these people, he believes Fomenko is correct. What they do is they go on Wikipedia and they get as far as the first paragraph where it says pseudoscience, and they never actually read any of Anatoly Fomenko's research. They can't deal with his actual citations and work. So what they deal in is superficial attacks and name-calling and ridicule. But, if you actually read Fomenko's, work, any of them, like even book 1 of his History, Fiction, or Science, it shows you that history is easily faked. And he lays out the system of how they faked the Dark Ages. And what they did is let's say you have the year and how it was written. And it's super simple. So, like, it used to be written like Jesus or Iusis, and then let's say the year is 586. So you'd have an I or X for Jesus or Christ. J didn't exist until a couple hundred years ago. And then dot 586 for the year 586, right? So you have an X or an I there. Well, if you wanted to insert a Dark Age and rewrite history, all you would do is remove that period between the I and the 5, and you have 1586. Insta 1,000 years created, right? And then so same thing with an X. X equals 10, right? So then you change the X to a 10, you have 1586, insta 1,000 years. And then what they would do is they would take real epics, real people, real kingdoms, etc., and they would change the names and throw them back into history like Frisbees at intervals of roughly 330, 1,050, and then 1,800 years. And they would just throw these things back into history to repopulate the time narrative. And so this is why you have, like, so many things that look like copies of later times or kingdoms or kings, etc., is because they are, and so they use this systematic method to just, manufacture this whole timeline wherein Europeans were stupid, dumb as rocks for 1,000 years. The Catholics and Christianity are to blame, of course, again, right? Always spin the blame onto Christians. That's always the trick, always the narrative. So they invert it. They blame the Christians for creating and putting us in this dark age that lasted for 1,000 years, and then the Muslims came along and freed us. That's the official story. Never happened. You just delete the whole thing, and history flows right through as it should. Only the real year is like, 900s.
That's the first I've heard of this Dark Ages analysis, but it's interesting.
Yeah, we did a whole long series on it with Jacob Duhlman, Notatus Scaligeri. I can't even pronounce it. My Latin sucks, but I recommend for those interested to go and yourself to go and watch that whole series and study Anatoly Fomenko's work. He's published 100 books on this topic. He's professor of mathematics at Russia, and you get all these idiots all the time. Well, he cites Mozarov, so therefore all of his work is wrong. they can't deal with the actual citations and research, so they'll, one poisoning, there is that term, poisoning the well. He cites this guy, so everything he says in the 100 books is wrong. Never mind, it's detailed citation by citation. You can just follow it through, and by the time you're done with just book one, it's like just blatantly obvious that the Saturnalian Kronos, Saturnalian worshippers, Father Time worshippers manipulate the time. Who are the Kronos Saturnalian worshippers? They're the Satanists. Get it? Mm. So they manipulate the historical narrative, and so, just like the Moloch worshippers and the Baal worshippers are going to have their child sacrifices, the Saturnalian worshippers are going to have their time sacrifices. And what is Kronos but the guy who eats his own children, right?
So changing time and eating your own children.
Yeah, or eating the other tribe's children anyway.
Eating the other tribe's children.
Right. So
yeah. Well, while you were talking there about like the cryptos and who was it? Cortez? Is that who you were talking about?
Yeah, sure, all of them.
Yeah. I was having a thought that it's like Jews can convert into Catholicism. They have mass conversions where they supposedly all become Christians or Catholics. And also the Messiah, the guy that all the Jews believe was the Messiah, Zabbatai Zevi.
The Satanist, yeah. Well, he's the inverted.
He turn into a Muslim?
Yeah, but he's the inverted Messiah. You see, they even invert that because, they take everything that's in truth or logos and they invert it. So, if Jesus is the ultimate representative of a man, an alpha male living in truth, and you're supposed to exemplify that in your life, they're going to do the exact opposite of that. So the person who's the dirtiest and darkest and, the most manipulative and did the worst things, he becomes their Messiah, right? It's the exact inverse.
But to finish, like the dynamic of the three Abrahamic religions, like Christianity and Islam, are all about like converting more and like growing to, having everybody be Christian or everybody be Muslim. But the Jews, it's like you have to be born a Jew, mother a Jew. We're very tribal, very inclusive, not just like letting people convert easily at all. So the dynamic there kind of sets up so that they're more likely to be able to manipulate and infiltrate the other religions to play them off one another or to subvert them for their benefit.
So
how long are we going? Does it end at 6 or
we can end whenever? I mean,
okay.
It used to be an hour long. I don't know that I've probably done like 1 hour long show in the last year.
Yeah, you want to hear one more highlight from the Palestine
dude,
trip?
we keep segueing way.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Hey, let it flow, man. I've been talking about it a lot and doing videos, but Hebron is another place I visited in the West Bank, one of the oldest cities, known cities in the world. And at the ancient Palestinian market there, they have to have gates above because the Palestinian settlers have a small minority in this city that used to be all Christian Palestinians. Now it's Muslims. They have their settlement right in the middle of the city, and it's like they piss down their urine and their feces, and they pour bleach and throw rocks down that they had to put to protect the market goers. Little kids walking by, they had to put a fence to catch all that stuff. And the IDF knows that they do it, and that there's always like there's homes that are thousands of years old in Hebron where the IDF in Israel shut down the main road, and the only way to get out of their house where they've lived for generations is out the back window through a ladder. Like that's the level that they're stealing land in Hebron, in the West Bank that should be Palestine's territory. And that's also where the Ibrahim Mosque, where the Barak Goldstein massacre was, 29 people murdered and a bunch more murdered in the streets after. And their answer to that murder, where the guy went in and shot a bunch of guys, Muslims worshiping. They called him a hero. They called this American Jewish settler a hero, and they said they wish they could have done it. That would be like this synagogue shooter going in and shooting, and like a bunch of people in America saying, "Oh, that was awesome. He's a hero. He did the right thing. He's fighting for us."
Yeah, but they do that stuff like every day over there.
That's the level of insanity of the Talmudic settlers.
Yeah. So there. And then yeah. Good grief, man. Oh, good grief. Yeah, what to even say about all that? The inversion is just so ridiculous. It's people are slowly starting to wake up, but it's such a slow process, and They don't
It's an
want.
inversion. Like we're arguing and fighting right now, saying like we should have the right to be able to criticize Judaism in Israel and stuff, and they're trying to take that away and censor it.
Yeah.
But it's not just that we should have the right or that we're entitled to, or it's that we have the obligation and the responsibility. Anybody that's not speaking out about these things is essentially an accomplice or just a disinterested, apathetic minion.
Yeah. Thank you, Ernesto and Caigo, for your support and donations. Ernesto, awesome. Thanks for the $50 there. They're going off on flat Earth. I don't know why people can't keep it on topic. I should block the people who
I
go
don't
off
see
topic.
any flat Earth. I'm not seeing any
Oh,
of
I
that.
see. Well, that's because I haven't accepted some of it, but it's like you got to go so deep into that research, and it's just not even worth my time right now.
Any Judy Wood stuff? Any fake fire stuff? Oh, you're steering clear of the fires, are you? Or
My
are
sister
you?
lost her home.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so and thanks to all of the listeners who sent support to my sister this week. In fact, she has a GoFundMe, and I posted it up on. Oh goodness! Oh, and okay, let me just find it here. I posted it up on Facebook the other day, and I'll show it here for those who want to support my sister's family. And of course, greatly appreciate all of your support for us tonight as well, both Adam and myself. Oh man, there's so many crazy.
The trolls, man. Deny, deflect, degrade, deceive. That's the playbook that they're following.
Yeah.
So everybody, everywhere, everything you read in the comments all over the internet, take with a huge grain of salt.
So here's the fund for the GoFundMe for my sister's family. Again, she lost everything. They had been in their home for like 15, 18 years, or actually longer than that. I think 20 years they'd been in their house, but literally lost everything but their cars and the clothes on their backs and computers and phones. So, if you can support, help Madera family rebuild, it would be hugely appreciated. And I'll post it again to the my Facebook page, and I've posted it again to I posted it this week to Twitter. I'll post it again so that you all can find it, and maybe I'll put it in the show notes for this episode down below. That would probably be the easiest, is just put it down in the show notes. But so yeah, they own their home. They've have to go out and literally buy everything and rebuild everything. My sister's a school teacher, but so that's where things are at. So that
Such a bummer to lose all the stuff that you can't replace, like photos.
Oh yeah, for sure. And she had a bunch of like my grandfather's family heirlooms and stuff in the house, and that was all lost. And so like this desk right here is a family heirloom. My grandfather built that. So my son will get it, etc. As long as this house doesn't go up in flames. I was evacuated up here in 2003 during the old fire. And, it's pretty scary because, for a week I didn't know if my home still existed or not. So
what do you think?
And here, what all the people will do who don't want to actually help or contribute, they'll say the fire was created by the government and that's their only help that they'll offer. Rather than saying stuff like that, still, my family was impacted directly by it. Rather than posting up that stuff that's not helpful to anyone right now, just, either support or shut up. Seriously. It's not, nobody cares, Zuher XX, that the fire is made by the government. That's not helping the people who are suffering. That doesn't help the people who are suffering. I haven't studied the evidence enough to make a decision on it, so I wouldn't until I have studied all of the grammar. But saying stuff like that doesn't help the people who are suffering. That's my issue with people who post stuff like that, and I see it all the time. And it's like I posted up the GoFundMe on my Facebook page, and immediately people started saying that, and it's like, it's irony because all the people who said that didn't offer any support.
Well, I was just going to ask you about that because it's just like everywhere. With any event, there's conspiracies now, muddying the water and poisoning the well to make all
And
this
even if it's
illegitimate
true,
stuff
it's
look
you know
bad.
it may be true. It may be, but I haven't looked at the grammar yet. And I'm a forensic researcher, and I'm not. It's like I
Well,
would
I
have to
haven't
see
looked at
all
the
of the
evidence either,
evidence.
but I've lived in California for my whole life essentially. There's always been fires. It's like a known fact, and this is just in the super paranoid lunatic internet last few years.
When,
Oh,
dude, when I was a kid, we lived in a town right on the border of Riverside County called Calamasa.
mhm.
And we had a mountain directly behind our house. I mean, it was our property and a couple properties literally right up against the mountain. And every year there was a fire threat. And usually every year there was a fire. And our swimming pool had a pump to dump the water directly on the roof of the house.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, duh. So, pool water, house, and it was all set up and all, ready so that when the fire came, it would just dump the water from the pool onto the house. So,
Yeah, I see more that it's fake, that it's done by the government and it's done for the new high-speed trains than I'm seeing the climate change people saying it's climate change is causing all the fires. Usually that's what we hear, but just in the last few years, it's like we've always had fires. You come live here; it's so dry. We don't get any rain. It gets windy in Santa Ana desert winds. It's so prone for fire. What we're doing out here in the desert, and but just in the last few years, people have been saying it's a conspiracy now every single time.
well,
When they've all
and the old fire up here was somebody going around lighting fires all over the place. They did finally catch the person, but it was arson, and he, torched the mountain. Like 10,000 homes were lost up here on this mountain. And there's like between my town and Big Bear, this area is called the Rim of the World. It's they lost, like, I don't know, it may not have been that many, but hundreds and hundreds of homes were lost, from that fire, and it went all the way across this whole mountain ridge. It's like Mount San Gorgonio is the peak here, and it's over 11,000 feet. But we can see beyond Temecula down your way on a clear day.
I feel
So
so bad for all the people. It must be so toxic, all the smoke that they're breathing. I know in like Northern California, it is awful.
yeah.
So poisonous. We'll probably all be just like the 9/11 first responders breathing in all the pesticides and being
Oh
going up in
wow, Anthony lived in rubbish dump. I mean Rubidoux. Oof, that's always ever since I was a kid. Wow, I didn't know you lived out here, Anthony. We should get together sometime. Yeah, and every once in a while I see people that live like, comment or send a donation that live like 20, 30 minutes away, and you live 2 hours away. I keep saying you and I should get together sometime, but now we're just kind of shooting the shit here, I guess. We're kind
Let's
of
go do a man. Let's go do a man on the street. You want to go do some interviews on the streets with people?
Yeah, I think we should. I think that would be good. Jan and Adam do
Hit the streets.
go hit the beaches or somewhere, and I think that would be pretty funny.
Yeah, but Palestine is really important. It wasn't an eye opening, but it was a life changing experience. The Zionists are crazier than I thought they were, and the Palestinians are more resilient and have a positive spirit than I even had imagined. And it's really like a canary in the coal mine what's happening over there. The Zionist state is so influential in our country, and if we look at the way they view the Palestinians, that's the same way they view us and the rest of the world, if not even worse. So it's really important to have solidarity and to wake people up to what's they're suffering over there. Otherwise, it's just going to be the whole world's going to be a prison planet like Palestine over there with all the barbed wires and the walls and the checkpoints and the military turrets.
Yeah,
It's
and you ever notice that they promote multiculturalism on us while they have apartheid there?
yeah.
Gee, inversion, anyone? You know?
But it's anti-Semitic to compare them to Nazis or to say that they're apartheid or to question the legitimacy
Right.
of
Right.
how the
Right.
Israelis
Yeah. We can't question the legitimacy of Israel. And Abe Foxman compares it to like China or another country. Except Israel was created in the 40s by running all of the Palestinians out under threat of war and then taking over all of their homes while they were gone for a week and then claiming victory and then placing a country there overnight. and then saying, well, we have the right to be here, and then terrorizing everybody in the region for the next, 70, 80 years. So it's like not quite the same thing. China's been there. A huge portion of China used to be Tartary, so did India, but China's been there since the beginning. Israel, we know when Israel was started, and the Israel today is not the Israel of the Bible of the 12 tribes. That's just one of the 12. The house of Israel was all 12 tribes, not just one. And by the way, the Judases, the Jews, betrayed the other tribes. And by the way, that's why they were sent wandering, because they betrayed everybody. Remember, they fell. They betrayed, they lied, they became the Judases. In Portuguese, that's what they're called, Judases.
And the reason that they're doing this, and they had to take Palestine, and they lie and say that nobody was there, and it was uninhabitable, and there was no oil. That's what Glenn Beck and the Zionists say. They could completely lie and cover up the genocide that happened there. And the justification and the reason that they're doing this is so that they can have Zion, rebuild the temple, have the Moshiach, their Messiah, come rule, so they can spill the blood of that red heifer and have the Ark of the Covenant and rule the whole world from Jerusalem. And this is their first prime minister's words, to have the Supreme Court of mankind in Jerusalem, as prophesied in Isaiah. And this is no conspiracy. They say the SPLC says I'm a bigoted, anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist because I say the Jews want to rule the world. When I just quoted Ben Gurion, the first prime minister.
Oh yeah, I have
look at their religion.
I have documents of them bragging of all this stuff. I used to have a document somewhere, I can't find it. I lost it, that compared Zionism to communism and showed exactly how they were the same things. Let's see. Somebody just made a comment. Now I can't find it. They said, how do Jewish atheists claim that God gave them Israel? That's a good point.
Yeah. And somebody made a good point in the chat about Palestine occupation looks like South African apartheid. And that's why BDS is so important. They're so fearful of BDS. It's like their kryptonite, not because it hurts them economically.
What's BDS?
BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. So it's like boycott Israel. That's what brought South Africa down was boycott and sanctions.
Yeah.
So if we can push that,
and notice how South Africa is totally wiped out now. I mean, it's done as a country, and now there's just rampant murders everywhere. But and that's a whole other subject. I should probably do a show on South Africa, but it's not quite the same as Israel. There's a lot of propaganda that's been propagated by the West.
It's not the same. It's not exactly the same, but we also learned that the academics in Israel study past colonial
right. So that's why they're so
empires.
afraid of the boycott. So, I mean, what you want to do, everybody, is invert their inversion and boycott Israel. Simple.
Another way we inverted them is we invert the ADL with the GDL, the Goyim Defense League. We point out their racial supremacy and their censorship and their crimes.
Right.
They want to point the finger at us. We'll just spin it right back on them. And I'd love to see the ADL do a hit piece article on the Goyim Defense League when we are the straight inversion of what they are.
Hear that, Abe?
I don't think they can do it. I think it's like a checkmate move on them. They're going to try to attack us in other ways, like say that we're really working for them. That's the way that really hurts us with our actual base, is to claim that GDL is working for the Zionists, that I am a Zionist shill.
Yeah, you'll get guys like that, like that clown that attacked both of us, out there spreading that stuff. And,
not just us, everybody.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, dude, you can tell who are the real researchers. And I do admit that, probably 90+% of the alt media is really on the take. Most alt media is on the take, and you can tell when they turn, and, it's like, it's funny because, before I started figuring all this out, I used to get maybe 50, 100 interviews on other shows a year or more, and then when I started exposing all this, it just slowed to a trickle. I've been on like, 400 or 500 other shows, but now it's slowed way down to a trickle at this point. But you can tell because they're all on the take, they're all reading the same script, and I'm on the don't have Jan Irvin on your show list.
Yeah, there's not really that big of a community of people that are speaking the truth. It's like you got the mainstream Democrats and all the insane leftist Marxists, And then you have like the kosher conservatives, like all of the Trump supporters and all the Republicans. It's like you got Fox News, and then you got like the internet and the alternative, like Ben Shapiro, Crowder, InfoWars, Breitbart, Rebel Media, and they're all Zionist first. They all pretend to be America first, but they're really Zionists, and you can't have the dual loyalty. You know, you can't serve two masters. And you're either America
That's
first
a Bible
or you're
quote.
America last.
Hey, everybody, did you just hear Adam quote the Bible? Giving you a hard time, man.
Which quote did I said? I already.
You can't have two masters. That's a quote from the Bible.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm just teasing you, man.
Another good one is John 7:7. I've been showing that one a lot. Do you know what that one is, or
probably
look it up and read that one?
Not off the top of my head, I don't. But here, hold on.
It applies perfectly to our modern day of what we're doing, speaking out against the evildoers and how they're spinning the hate onto us. And it's Jesus's words, and it's like I make a video criticizing the ADL and the SPLC, and then they censor me because they're the trusted flaggers.
Okay, so the world cannot hate you, but me it hateth, because I testify of it, that the works thereof are evil.
Exactly what they're doing now, having the world hate us, saying that we're the hateful ones when we point out their evil and their wrongdoings.
Oh yeah, and just for having the word Palestine in the title, they demonetized this episode. So and give out your PayPal and whatever again too, so we can get more support.
Yeah, everything you can find with follow me on Twitter at @no_more_news. And No More News on YouTube, and also the backup channel, because any of us can get taken down with a snap, and we have to look out for one another when we're under censorship, because they can knock any one of us down, but as long as everybody brings them back up, we hang together or hang separate.
And I do recommend people go through my channel and download all of the videos too, so that you have a backup copy of it, because that way they can never get rid of the work. It can, back in the day, and thanks, Zuer, for the apology. I appreciate it. But back in the day, we passed everything around on cassette tapes and paper. So, if we have to, we go back to that. But that's how we did it for years and years. Back in the 90s when I was an activist on the streets, that's how we did it. So just, download everything, people, and have copies of it. And that way, if it goes down, of course, I'll try to set up other channels otherwhere and re-upload everything. But there's 300 shows I've got to upload, on the video side. And I do, just so everybody knows, on the Logos Media website, I do keep an audio backup of all of the shows over there. So even if they shut down the channel, the website will still have all of the audio there, so at least you can still access the archives and everything there. And yes, a lot of it is behind a paywall for memberships, because we have to pay for all the research that we do. So, those of you who hate me for, putting, shows 3 or 6 months old behind a paywall, stop being a little communist crybaby and, support the show. It's like, it's always the people who don't donate and support, and they'll say how much they get out of my research while they refuse to support it. So the reason why I haven't had, well, obviously YouTube has commercials on there, but we never had commercials and whatnot on the show, because it's always been a listener supported show. I didn't want corporate underwriting and all that stuff, and I've always kept it clean that way. So we have
I'm going to start selling supplements and flashlights and
not fleshlights, I hope.
Flashlights. Yeah, I could start with that. Yeah, that's the biggest most popular podcast in the world is sponsored by Flashlight.
Yeah. And I need to do that too. I need to, in fact, this is one of the old Trivium shirts I still have. Ooh, bright glare there. Oof, good grief. There it is. But, it's like, yeah, order the shirts, whatever. I don't, I think Cafe Press doesn't even pay me. I don't think I've even gotten a check from Cafe Press in 2 years. I need to switch, to a t-shirt company. I tried to get shirts printed somewhere else a few years ago, and the guy was a total jerk, so I didn't end up having it done. But I need to create some new designs and get some of that stuff going. I need to get, some of these book and article projects done too. But really appreciate all the audience support and donations and love. We honestly can't do it without your support, and because we didn't take the money, you don't get the big, $6,000 checks that the CIA likes to pay out. It's like when you start a podcast, if you say everything they want, they'll send you huge checks. And after a while, you catch on. Whenever I say what they want, I get big donations. If I don't, the donations cut off. And after about 6 months, you figure it out when you get into podcasting. It's like, wait, so that's how they try to, get everybody corrupted when they start into alt media.
Listen to this, what you just said right there. I just heard the other day a pretty big YouTuber that has like a interview and a debate show called The Public Space. He admitted to it's called JFG. He admitted to Richard Spencer that he got $25,000 from Epstein, from the pedophile Epstein, donated $25,000 to him. And then he said that he'll take money from the devil. And Richard Spencer was like blown away, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're saying this.
Well, yeah, that's, whenever, for those of you who don't know, here's how the system works. May as well lay it out. I've probably laid it out on the show before, but when you start a podcast, what they do is if you're doing shows like early on, I started out doing psychedelic stuff, right? And I was a researcher and all of that. And then I was interviewing all the guests for that huge 1,000-page book project that I never published, because while doing all of those interviews, I realized that they were all dirty and that I was in the middle of this hornet's nest. So I stopped promoting all of that, and I turned and I exposed it. As soon as I did that, any large donations were immediately cut off. Any, right? Whereas when I was doing all those shows on psychedelics, they were always in $6,000. It's like out of Saunders' book. I forget the title of it. Culture, Cold War, or whatever it is. But in there, she talks about how the CIA likes to pay out in $6,000 amounts. So you get $1,500, $3,000, or $6,000 donations, right? And it's like, But as long as the shows were along those topics, those donations happen. And then like 8 years ago, when I started publishing and exposing Gordon Wasson and all that, it all cut off. And that's how they do it. So, you podcasters out there, those of you who are dirty, you keep taking that money to say what they want you to say, or you wake up and then you side with truth and you don't take the money and you do like we do and we beg for the money from the public. So that's just how it goes, And so, I could have taken the easy road and gone dirty, but I shouldn't say unfortunately. Fortunately, I didn't, and I don't know that there's many of us out there that haven't. Most of the people, so I started my podcast over a decade and a month ago, and everybody that started a decade ago that I know of, but maybe one other podcaster took the money, like all of them. And here I'm still
not a lot of good sources.
Here I'm still living in this crappy, tiny mountain cabin, doing the show in my kitchen with a screen wall here, to hide the kitchen now. Ooh, fancy.
Yeah. I understand everybody's paranoia, wondering that if that guy's a shill, can I trust them? Because there's so many agents, and that's working to their advantage because they know that if they do the COINTELPRO and the cognitive infiltration like Cass Sunstein, that it's going to create paranoia and it's going to create uncertainty. It's going to cause infighting, and it's going to just screw up any kind of union and consolidation, people coming together to actually make a big difference.
And, and that's why we put the Trivium out over 9 years ago now, because it shows you exactly how to fact check and do things. So is Jan Irvin dirty? Okay, well, check the citations and the work we're doing. It's super simple to figure out if someone's dirty. If we start doing that, thank you, Gokuchi. If we start doing that circle jerk thing like I exposed in the Spies in Academic Clothing article, where we all only cite each other and don't get down to the primaries, and then you check the primaries and we're lying about that, that's how you know if we're dirty. It's not hard to figure out who's clean and who's dirty. Always check the citations. Always, break down, are they using fallacies? Are they using spin and all of this stuff? And then you can know who's dirty and legit. And, so people will accuse me, well, Jan says everybody's an agent. Well, that's because I fact-checked their stuff. And if it's crap and lies and spin, I say they're dirty. It's that simple. It's not just me going around saying everybody's a CIA agent. No, I've exposed key people in the psychedelic movement and in academia, etc., who are selling this agenda, and the patterns that I see and that behavior that I see that, that always goes along with it, and it's like you can tell if somebody's a willful dupe. There's ways to test them if they're a willful dupe or an agent asset, and how do you test them? A willful dupe, usually after 15 to 25 exchanges, will start to question their beliefs and then begin to shift their perception. Whereas a troll or an agent, they have a list, right? And it says name call, ridicule, and whatever, and repeat. And that's all they do. And they'll ridicule, name call, ridicule, and they just go, it's like, they just have a list that they follow to attack, and so once you get past the 25 exchanges point, like if you get up, say, into 50 or 100 exchanges and they haven't budged at all, and they're still on that same ridicule pattern and all, they're probably
you can't admit
dirty.
you were wrong.
Right, you can't admit you're wrong. See, if you're
yeah.
on the take and if you're a troll and you're being paid for this behavior, you cannot ever admit that you're wrong. So you're going to keep with that narrative. So, you can tell when somebody's usually dirty or a willful dupe by using this method, because a willful dupe will start to question and will start to change their behavior and their perception. Whereas a willful dupe or an AI always sticks to that script because that's what they're paid to do.
There's litmus tests too, and you can just tell, you can judge by people's fruits, and just the fallacies are, if you can spot fallacies, like I read a book about persuasion, and it teaches you some of the best fallacies and how to avoid getting fooled by them. And if you got those down, it's like having a shield so you don't get taken advantage of, and you don't fall for the misinformation and for the Hegelian dialectic.
Yeah, and everybody needs to get out there and start studying the trivium. I mean, seriously, 9 years and a month since I released it. 9 years and a month. I mean, it's spread far, but it's got, everyone has to get it. That is what is going to level the playing field so that people can't do this stuff anymore. It's going to stop, what the Zionist shills are trying to promote and do. It would stop all of that because everybody would be able to see it. But we have to keep promoting it and spreading it and teaching people how to think. The trivium isn't, a cult, the cult of Jan Irvin, like they like to say. The trivium teaches you how to think and fact check information so that you know what's true and what's a lie. It's that simple. You ask who, what, where, and when. That's your grammar. Why is logic or your understanding of the subject, and how is your explanation of your understanding and your grammar. And anybody should be able to go through and fact check you. And if you have an error, they should be able to point to you. But what do they always do? Oh, Jan Irvin just, they use ridicule and attacks. They don't address the citations and the work. It's like these pathetic morons who, Jan Irvin thinks Fomenko is legitimate. Oh my God, ha ha ha. I read the first paragraph of Wikipedia and I didn't crack a book, And it's like, we did, 6, 7 shows showing Fomenko's work correct, and we corroborated it by completely different methods that Fomenko didn't use, by different citations. So, it's like, we don't agree with him just because. We agree with him because we've actually researched it, unlike the morons who attack us who haven't. And that's the difference. And the real difference between an idiot and an intelligent person is an idiot doesn't fact check what they're told to believe, and a smart person fact checks. That's the only difference. You fact check, and if you fact check often enough, your whole inventory of thoughts in your mind has been fact checked, and what the inventory in your own brain has been checked, and any garbage that you believed has been tossed out because when you fact checked it, it didn't hold water, and you toss it, And so when you go through this process for 9 years, after a while, you've fact checked what you believe. And if somebody, and not only that, but it gives you an exact process, step by step, that you went through to verify that information. And then if anybody has new grammar or whatever, it's simple to go in and check it against what you've already gone through or show them how it's wrong or whatever. But, most people think with their emotions, and they think that their emotional, that their feelings are as valid as the facts. They're not. They're your feelings. Your feelings don't matter to facts. It doesn't matter if you're upset or if it makes you feel bad or whatever. That's not how truth works. And I used to tell people, put your emotions in the slime jar whenever you have to think, because the emotions always cloud your judgment. So you put them aside. And then once you're done thinking, you let the emotions back out. And then, it's not to say you shouldn't love your wife, your children, and all that. But when you go to think and think through like research and stuff, if you approach everything like these millennials do, everything is through emotion and they cannot think. And that's why we see destruction all around us. And, feminism, all of these different social movements all around us, Antifa, et cetera, they are causing the collapse of our society.
I had a horrible experience. I spent some time recently with a couple SJWs that were proud Marxists, and I couldn't believe the level of indoctrination that they were under. Just straight out of liberal college, just literally like, I'm a communist. I love Antifa. I like Antifa shutting down people's free speech. We need to have open borders and free welfare for everybody.
And the idiots don't get that, the working people and the families support all of that. So the more pressure they put on the families, the more the whole society breaks, because once the families are gone, there is nothing left to support the stupid socialist, communist, Antifa morons. There is nothing there. And it's like, most of these socialist types don't have children and family, because when you have to work to support that, that it goes first to your own, right? So you get these millennials that don't have children, and when you have children, your thinking process reaches a whole new level, because it's no longer just about you, it's about this life that you created. And then grandparents, it goes on a whole other level, et cetera, down the line. But if you don't have children, you're on the most entry level, you have child thinking, right? So, when you were growing up, your parents took care of you. And then as you grow older, well, the government should take care of you. Whereas when you're a parent, you're growing up and your parents raised you, and then you become a parent, you go, oh, I have to raise this thing, so now I'm responsible. Rather than saying, government, gimme, 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 where does that stuff come from? And they just say, well, the government just prints it and it's usury. No, it's taken from us, mostly the white working males and every other working male, and then the families across from that, and then everything else. They slowly break it down, and then it crashes the whole society. Every socialist and communist country around the world has eventually collapsed, and you can cite Norway or Sweden. They'll be there soon too.
Mm-hmm. People are too dogmatic in their beliefs, and they're not willing to question their beliefs and like seek out information that might prove them wrong. Like me personally, I'm embarrassed if I'm like proven wrong about something in public, or if I say something and it turns out it was incorrect.
Yeah, so and I make a public apology about it too, right? Not apology, but a public admission that statement was wrong.
Right. And I'd like to think that all parents are adults, but I've seen a lot of parents of children that still have arrested development and have not matured to the level of a responsible caregiver.
Yeah, and then, you can see the whole agenda with that too, with these childless millennials. You can see that the agenda is intentionally that, because as soon as you have children in a family, people immediately switch to being conservatives. Not always, but by far, families are conservative, whereas those who don't have families and children are liberal, and they want the state to take care of them.
People that pay taxes.
Wah, 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 wah. Somebody has to take care of me. Wah, wah. And it's like freedom is, you get to have gay sex or this kind of stuff, rather than what freedom really means. So it becomes their agenda for freedom. The liberal agenda for freedom is about iniquitous behavior, not real freedom. And if you look at it, it's everything is that they promote is in antithesis to living in truth. So gay sex, well, that wipes out your family tree. I did the show with Mark Jansen a few weeks ago homosexual down in Australia who's fought with it his whole life. He was a victim of pedophiles as an 8-year-old, and
It's so often the case too.
right, exactly, and he's, come through and woken up and seen all of this, and and coming to the truth about it, and he's trying to practice, as a Christian and live in truth. But the socialists take everything and they invert it, and if you follow and understand natural law, and it's not just, Mark Passio's false axiom of do no harm, so be vegan, it's like, no, that's not how it works, because veganism itself causes harm. That's why it's a false axiom in the first place, Anyway, so, it's, and then what they do is they spin it to get people to use emotions, but you have to pull that back, pull the liberals back in, rein them back in. And the reason actually why they've gotten out of control is there's not enough alpha males anymore to keep the beta males and the liberals in check, because they've promoted it so hard, and so.
And the sperm counts and the poisoning and the,
Well, yeah, you have all these soy boys running around now. Yeah. It's like, wow. And the NPCs and all, but the veganism, that's part of it. What is your reproductive system made out of? What is testosterone made out of? Cholesterol. So why the hell are they selling a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet? It's a total sham. It's total lie. It's total eugenics. They've been selling it for 80 years. It's total nonsense. Heart disease is caused by gluten coagulating with vegetable oils and a lack of vitamin K2. And over it's been repeated. There's no even arguing about it anymore that grains cause this, but they'll invert the trivium, use emotion to promote veganism as the way to save the planet and do no harm, and all of these false axioms that are clearly eugenics agenda, aligned with the left. And what is it? Romans 14:1 or 14:2 says very clearly that where is it? That vegans are weak. Those who eateth herbs. Another who is weak eateth herbs, right there. And you can compare that citation to all of the other Bibles, and you'll see that it's also, oops, I just grabbed the wrong one there. Sorry, just a second. Get this one here and hit compare, and then you can see all of the different ones. And the weak person eats only vegetables. The weak in faith eats only vegetables, etc. So, why would they be promoting that? Gosh. I can't figure out why Satanists would promote, air quotes, former Satanists would promote veganism. When it says right there, those weak in faith eat only vegetables. So why would somebody go out promoting that? Golly gosh, I can't figure that out. Everything is an inversion. They're little children. Here's the rules. Here's natural law, God's law, laws of Moses, whatever you want to call them. And we're going to just pound our fists and have attention. No. I want to be vegan. I want butt sex. It's like, oh, come on. Wow, people. Really? I mean, that's like the level of their intellect, their capacity. Here's my rant. Sorry.
Freedom to be able to use whatever toilet you want. That's the freedoms in America.
Oh yeah, transgender bathrooms now, because the liberals can't figure out what's a penis and a vagina. Because they're actually stupid enough. You liberals, you're actually dumb enough to believe that the doctor assigned your sex at birth because some, probably Jewish professor told you in your SJW class at your stupid liberal college that fed you a bunch of propaganda that your doctor assigned your gender, and you actually believed it. You actually believed that dumb shit.
It's just a construct. There's a Zionist company, literally you go to their website, it says they're a Zionist company, Dr. Bronner's. They make like healthy soap. And they had an article with this girl that was like a fairy. She had a magic wand and a little fairy costume. And she says, in the Talmud, it says there's 6 genders. That's what they're like you said, on the shows. It's like in the public, in the population, it's such a small percentage, but like in the movies and in the shows, they're making it so prevalent. I saw an article just the other day that one school somewhere had like double digits transgender children in the school. They know that promoting it over and over again in TV and in the magazines and making it cool, all the Hollywood celebrities are like, all their kids are turning out to be like this cisgender stuff. They are making this the new trendy, cool thing to do.
At least it wipes out their own family and kids, though. I mean, they promote this shit. They should at least, I mean, I shouldn't say that to their kids because they're obviously victims of it. But like, wow, yeah, it's total abuse.
I mean, they know what they're doing by all this.
See, look at this. We have some idiots in here like this Vianosis. Jan loves his strawmans and ad hominems when it comes to veganism. No, I was a vegan for many years. It nearly killed me on my son's 3rd birthday. I've researched it, done many shows on it. I've exposed the low-fat, low-cholesterol agenda. I've exposed how all of the staples of the vegan diet, the grains, the legumes, all of that are poisonous. And these people are still too dumb to get it. So sorry, Vianosis, I'm calling you out. You're too stupid to get it. Go take your vegan propaganda, satanic crap somewhere else. Yes, I've said that veganism is satanic because it's obvious eugenics. It's a lie. It's contrary to truth. Every cell in your body is made up of fat. Your brain is made up of cholesterol. Your body is made up of cholesterol. The staples of veganism are poisonous. You have to import the oils like coconut oil from the other side of the planet. It's non-sustainable. And it's an inversion of everything. Again, talking about going back to the Bible and inverting it. It's an inversion. What did I just show on screen? Romans 14:2 right here. So these idiots, constantly come in and they try to spin it. But I mean, they're just psychotic. It's just, it's so obvious eugenics. If you don't believe it's eugenics, you fools, go back and read Plato's Republic because he talked about it then. And if you still can't figure it out, I mean, wow, they actually think that nomadic people like followed soybeans around the planet, not cattle. I mean, it's like, men were hunters. And these soy boys, hunting is bad. Male things are bad, masculinity is bad. It's just like, wow, these people are so just wrecked. And
these pet owners that give their animals like vegan diets, like, no, animals are supposed to eat meat, only meat.
I just banned that idiot Vianosis,
I saw another comment. They had a good observation. Your Trigglypuff, your liberal impersonation looked just like Trigglypuff with the arms.
Yeah, another thing.
You got the Trigglypuff down.
Another thing they like to do is they spin it. If you're not for transgender or homosexuality because it's not in truth, you're a homophobe. No, I just don't like the behavior. It wipes out your own family. It spreads disease. Yada 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 down the list. It's only for sexual gratification. You can't get children out of it.
I don't hate. I'm not a transgender basher. Like I sympathize. I feel bad. I mean, they're committing suicide like crazy. There's obviously a whole bunch of inner turmoil.
And if
they're not comfortable in their own skin and their own body
because of the social engineering they've been sold.
And the chemicals and all the poisoning and the
soy, especially the soy, You shouldn't eat anything with soy. It's high in phytoestrogens. Buy your food from around the outside of the store. Avoid the aisles because that's where all the processed foods with gluten and sugar and soy and corn syrup are. But if you avoid that stuff, you'll clean up your life. But yeah, and it's like Mark Janssen said.
Make sure it's kosher, though. It's all got to be kosher.
I think
make sure to pay that kosher tax.
I think that's Mark Janssen right there. Is homosexuality or homosexual is an addiction, but that might be Mark that's saying that, who was on a few weeks ago. So thanks, Mark, for mentioning that. That's true. And let's see. Yeah, and then Anthony says men are hunter killers, women are nurturer healers. That's true to a large extent. The issue is when it gets into witchcraft and stuff.
Man boob, yeah.
Man boob. Yeah, he says it's me. So cool, Mark. Glad to see you tuned in, and hope you're doing well down under. But I don't really, we're an hour and 40 minutes in here. I don't really have anything else. We're just kind of rambling on
Yeah,
different subjects.
yeah.
And
I'm ready to wrap it up whenever you are. I gotta still get dinner.
yeah, me too. So anyway,
Gonna go get my soy fill in.
I'm gonna get some edamame and some, get some
Yeah.
processed food and some wheat snacks and
All I've eaten all
and then
day was
blame the
bacon.
white male for all of my problems and my health. You ever notice how like these trans people tend to be like obese or like very beta, and then because people aren't attracted to them for their behavior, then they go into this trans thing because then they have acceptance, and then what they do is they force the acceptance of their lie onto everyone else.
Well, the obesity thing I think is like a physiological, biological thing because they have hormone problems sometimes that can mess with the gender bending.
Yeah, well, and that's from the low-fat diet. You have to have a high-fat diet, and then that stuff, will naturally reverse. And it's mostly city dwellers too. Jan has a meat addiction.
Me too. All I ate today was bacon.
I had 5 pieces of bacon this morning. I love bacon. So after nearly dying on my son's birthday from being a stupid vegan, I like meat and I love my ribeye steaks and I, every man should have at minimum 5 or 6 eggs a day, and you'll notice such a huge boost in performance and thinking and sex drive and everything. But
yeah,
are you the
hopefully
David Duke?
We won't die from heart attacks. That's what they tell us. Sometimes I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack covering this info. Or reading the trolls comments. Just kidding. The trolls are flattering. They're my favorite sometimes.
Mark says 4 eggs. Jump it to 5, dude. And if you really want to push it, go up to 8 or 9 eggs a day. That's when you feel really good. You did veganism the wrong way. That's what all their arguments are. It's always that same stupid argument. Like, like I didn't take all the supplements and import the same coconut oil you did from Asia, you idiots. Give me a break, man. I think Trollmaster 666 might actually be a troll. Who would use an avatar like that? Who would put a satanic avatar in their username if they weren't actually a satanic troll?
The internet and YouTube is so infiltrated with sock puppet accounts and fake accounts. Like, and I know a lot of people are just creating dummy accounts to go on here, but it's like there's so much of that they could definitely be having like Mossad and every government around the world. Any PR company can have bots. Like how almost everything is probably a lie in the comments.
Yeah, I know some of these people, but yeah, you can tell the ones that are the frickin' trolls. It's like these poor people, it's like you couldn't get a life, you couldn't get a real job. You're a POS, and what do? You go around and troll for a living. I mean, like, really, like you are the lowest scum of the earth next to pedophiles, and
you take pleasure in the suffering of other people
and causing online strife and trying to mislead. I mean, it's just like, what kind of psychopathic piece of shit do you have to be to actually take a job like that? It's just, wow, and I mean, and then the higher level trolls are the ones that are academics and whatnot, and there's different scales of them, but, they take pride in misleading people, into creating limited hangouts and stuff, and, oh, yeah, we're going to attack Jan because he speaks out against the vegan eugenics agenda and has exposed it for years because it almost killed me. Duh. And Inquisitor has it right. Veganism is why Jan's hair thin. That's true, and that actually came back a lot after I quit being vegan. And that's actually shown in the Kalahari Desert Hunter videos that you can find on YouTube. But yeah, it's bad.
Speaking of hair, I saw a comment earlier that they need to start a GoFundMe so I can get a haircut. So thanks for that.
God, why don't they just send you a nice donation and shut their trap?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll cut my hair.
Is that the real David Duke? I doubt it. I've tried to get David Duke on the show, and he never answered. He said he would come on, and then he never followed up for the appointment. So,
yeah, I talked to him on Twitter once too. I was trying to get him on and haven't heard back from him yet. He's Yeah, I'd like to ask him a few things. I've heard he's still kind of supporting Trump. That's what some of his, because he does a lot of good work, but also some questionable things is what I've been hearing.
Yeah.
Supporting Trump still.
Yeah, and of course they make him out like they love to bring out the KKK thing and all of that. And of course that was run by, well, the same group we've been talking about this whole show.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I would like to know if that's the real David Duke. You should go back and reply to my email that I sent you like 2 years ago to follow up, dude. So if that's really you. But anyway,
All right, ready to wrap it up. I
ready to wrap it
I
up.
gotta get
Good
going.
night,
But
everybody.
thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the talk. It's always good to. I'm used to watching you. It's nice to be able to like have a back and forth and chime in real time.
Yeah, definitely. So I've seen a bunch of your shows too, and thanks. I'm sure the Palestinian Girls School. Thank you as well for doing that video today that you put out, and thanks for helping expose
share
that
around, guys.
Yeah, I posted it to my Facebook page. So anyway, thanks for all your support, everybody. Please support the show. We're one of the few who actually do this stuff. He says, "Yeah, bro, it's me." But anyway, who knows if it actually is? I'll have to check out the channel. And if it is you, David, shoot me an email through the logosmedia.com contact page, and I'll follow up with you. If not, we know you're a troll. So thanks, and good night, everyone. Thanks for your support. Hey, Adam, how can they support you again?
No More News. Just Google No More News. Find the PayPal, the Patreon. Every dollar helps. I can't do it without the support.
And you can donate from PayPal directly. If you use your friend's thing and donate, then PayPal doesn't take any, and it's just contact@logosmedia.com. So thanks, everybody, and good night.